reason I refused to go back to Iraq was that I disagreed with the rationale behind the war, but more so than that, it was that based on my on-the-ground experience, I saw that the rule of law was being violated, that the integrity and dignity and the sovereignty of the Iraqi people were being violated on a daily basis and in a very systemic way. And upon return to the United States on a 2-week furlough, I decided that I could not in good conscience continue to be a part of that occupation. The military became very upset when I refused to go back to Iraq because I was publicly critical of the war. And I was the first combat veteran to have returned from the war and to have spoken publicly against it and to have publicly refused to go back to it. So it posed a political question to the military on how to deal with dissent within its ranks. So at the court-martial, we were basically crippled in our ability to present a credible defense. Our key witnesses were not allowed to testify in court. Key pieces of evidence were not allowed to be filed or to be considered. And the argument of the argument of the prosecution was able to make was concentrated on the question of whether or not I got on the plane on the day that I was supposed to go back to Iraq. Expert witnesses on international law, expert witnesses on the rules of war were not allowed to testify and to make a case against the war within the frame of international law. So the whole case was basically stripped from its substance. So the military is now trying to, again, concentrate on technicalities and leave the trial of the war out of the picture. They don't want any talk of international law having been broken. They don't want to talk about torture. They don't want to talk about the commission of war crimes. They don't want to put the war on trial. They want to, once again, boil down the question of my case to technicalities. Hopefully, we will be able to defeat this conviction, not only for the sake of my own name, but more importantly because we find ourselves at a time, almost 6 years later, when I am appealing this case, and yet yesterday, the same day that the Center for Constitutional Rights filed my case, another soldier was being tried for refusing orders to Afghanistan. His name is Victor Agosto. Agosto is now in jail, sitting in jail for 30 days for his refusal to go back. So the appeals and the resistance continues. Today at the Veterans for Peace Conference, we heard from a sister from RAWA, Revolutionary Association of Women of Afghanistan, speaking about the condition of women and the condition of the Afghan people today, and how there is really no military solution to what is going on in that country. The people are being brutalized not only by the puppet government of Karzai, but also by the parliament, which is being ruled by warlords, and with the support of the United States. And yet here in the United States, we have soldiers going to jail for refusing to go back to, precisely to that occupation. So this is something that we're doing not only for my personal case or for the case of Victor Agosto, but we are doing it because we're trying to set a precedent. We're trying to open a door for people who are dissenting against these wars to be able to have a fair forum in which to speak about their experiences and to lay out a case against illegal and immoral occupations. Thank you. This is kind of hard talking to the camera.
You did have a teleprompter? Okay. My name is Mike Ferner. I'm president of Veterans for Peace, and we're in College Park, Maryland for our annual meeting. What I would like to do is to support Camilo and Victor Agosto and all the other war resistors that have been so courageous to stand up and say no to this immoral war. We talk a lot about heroes in this country, and a lot of the celebrities that we give hero status to frankly, it's kind of questionable whether they ought to even enjoy that status. But it's people like Camilo and Victor Agosto who are the real heroes of our society. They are people who had the courage to stand up against an entire institution and to say, no, that my conscience tells me and my humanity tells me that I simply cannot participate in this. And let me tell you, that takes a lot of courage. I got discharged from the Navy during the Vietnam War as a conscientious objector, and I have a pretty good idea of how difficult that is to finally come to that decision that regardless of everything you're hearing all around you and what you received from your education before you went into the military, that something's wrong here, and you've got to stand up and say, it's wrong. The king has no clothes. And it's incredibly important for our society that there are people who continue to do that. And instead of just getting a discharge upgrade, Camilo Mejia ought to be getting a statue in a public park built after him, because that's the kind of recognition that we need to give to people that take these actions. But unfortunately, those aren't the people that this society honors. We make our cases in the street, we make our case on YouTube, and we have to continue making our case that way, and eventually it will make a difference. Thank you.